113 Questions About Evolution with John Perry. Evolutionary question numero 20. Are humans guaranteed to go extinct? A few weeks back, I got a letter from Jacob Austin, who's one of the YouTube viewers, and let me just read it to you here. He says, John, a friend of mine follows a lot of futurist stuff, and he thinks technology will eventually allow us to overcome aging and death. We could become immortal. I know the universe is hypothesized to end eventually. Some say it will end in heat death. That aside, is it possible that Homo sapiens, because of technology, might avoid death or at least extinction? Imagine a Star Trek future where individuals still die, but our species lives on and explores forever. Maybe this is a question worthy enough for 113 questions about evolution. Cheers, Jacob. Well, if you live long enough, you will eventually get hit by a bus. When people say that we could live forever through advances in technology, I don't think they understand how long forever is. Forever is just a really long time. I mean, I don't understand how long forever is. It's unimaginably long, right? And even if you were to live until the heat death of the universe, I mean, that already is a number. I think it's like 10 to the power of 100 or something, which is the estimates for that, that when the universe will be essentially dead because of entropy. That is already unimaginably long. So no, there's no way that someone could live that long. It doesn't matter what we do. It's just something is going to happen. And as far as the human species living long, a Star Trek type future, I'm really glad you mentioned Star Trek. Next Generation is definitely my favorite TV show of all times. But the chances of doing that forever are also, it's no. The answer is no. And there are two reasons for that. First of all, there's catastrophes. Catastrophes happen, and there can be natural catastrophes or there can be man-made catastrophes. And then secondly, there's just evolution, the fact of evolution. Something worth pointing out here is that, the longest living hominin in the fossil record, so the ancestor of modern humans, was Homo erectus, I think. I believe it's Homo erectus. Homo erectus was around for 1.5 million years, and that's the longest. But humans are very different because of our technology. Let's say that our actual lineage doesn't go extinct. Well, we're definitely going to evolve into something else. So last week, I set us up for today's conversation by talking about anagenesis. So anagenesis is where an entire population, an entire species evolves together, kind of in unison. And phylogenesis is where populations split up into groups as time goes on. If we somehow made it to a Star Trek type future, which I don't think we will, maybe I'm a little bit pessimistic, but I'm pretty sure we're going to kill ourselves before we do that. I do think that humans will go extinct, and not through natural causes. I think that we're going to end up inventing something, discovering something that just does us in. But let's suppose that we do make it. Let's suppose that we make it to the Star Trek world of human exploration. What's going to happen is you're going to have people spreading out all over the place, and we're going to be evolving in different directions because we're under different selection pressures. This is just inevitable. Evolution happens. And let's be really clear here. Evolving into something new is the same thing as going extinct. Now, of course, there might be some virtues and traits that we hold dear about humanity that will continue on into this new species. Some of them might not. But eventually, everything that we care about when it comes to human beings, that will eventually, it will go away. Evolution happens. There are some ways maybe you could slow it down or possibly avoid it by freezing samples of humans. If we have the technology in the future to completely preserve a genome and then rebuild an organism from its genome, that is one way that you could stall the extinction of current humans. That would be kind of like make a zoo of human history where you bring back different types of people from different points in history. But if we don't kill ourselves or get killed by like an asteroid or something, we will evolve into something new. That is just inevitable. The other very real possibility, and this might happen in our lifetimes, is a different process that I call techno Techno-Anagenesis. Techno-Anagenesis would look something like this. So here I've got me on the bottom. Then we got this guy wearing Google Glass, which, Google Glass totally failed, and then eventually we get something like the Borg. And I'm sure you are probably aware we're already trying to connect the human brain to computers. So the most famous person doing this would be Elon Musk, who's trying to do this with his company called Neuralink. Neuralink is hilarious. That's what they named it because that's what the link is called in the Borg. So they're having fun with it, I suppose. I don't know if you've seen this, but they've actually already got it so that you can implant a chip in the brain of a pig. And we've got the software now that can actually interpret certain sensations that the pig is getting. So when the pig touches its nose against something, that sends a certain signal through the brain. This chip has figured out what that signal is in the brain. It can interpret it. And if you watch, the Neuralink did like a trade show thing a while ago where they showed off this pig. And they showed not only could they receive signals and interpret them properly from the pig. So you touch the pig on the nose and the computer chip knows that the pig was just touched on the nose. But they also showed that they could send signals back and the neurons would respond. I don't think that they showed if they could actually make the pig think that its nose was touched just with the computer chip. But essentially, we either already can or are very close to both receiving signals from the brain and sending signals to the brain that the brain understands. And that's terrifying, really. I read an article a while back about people worrying about drugs like Adderall, these performance-enhancing drugs for the mind, that, there's going to be pressure in different professions to be drugged, to become superhuman and use drugs to do this. Well, drugs are, think about something like Adderall. You're taking a pill, you're digesting, it goes through your digestive tract and then into all of your blood, and then it stimulates your brain and whatnot. That is one of the most clumsy possible things you could use to, change how your brain functions. What we're going to be able to do in the very near future, and startlingly near future, is, do a similar thing, but hyper-focused. As we start to better understand how the brain works and how to stimulate different things, we can you could just stimulate someone to enjoy doing their taxes. And so you sit down to do your taxes and there's nothing more fascinating in the world to you than your taxes right now. And then, when you're a janitor, you go, you're cleaning the floors and there's nothing more interesting to you than cleaning the floor. Like, we could eventually, we could just control the reward system in the brain and you could get yourself to do whatever you want yourself to do. So that's like the promising side of this technology. But also, of course, as is the case in Star Trek with the Borg, people start connecting their brains to each other and then become this hive mind and you lose all sense of individuality. We could dramatically transform what it is to be a human to the point that, in the fossil record, we consider a new species to have evolved when there's enough difference between the older populations. So when we're looking at anagenesis in the fossil record, it's like, okay, this thing that we're looking at is anatomically different from this other thing. And there's kind of a fuzzy line there where they're just going to say, okay, this is a new species. And I think for techno-anagenesis, this could happen really quickly. Our bodies might stay pretty much the same. I mean, this could happen in the next couple hundred years. Our bodies are the same, but if you were to take a time machine, go into the future and try and hang out with one of the people, they're going to be so incredibly different from you that there's no real way to even relate to them. We're kind of already doing that just through cultural anagenesis, right? If you were to go back 300 years, you probably wouldn't have a whole lot in common with anyone you met. I mean, there'd even be a little bit of a language barrier, not much, but you'd still be able to hang out with pretty much anyone and enjoy your conversation. But if you were to go just 300 years into the future, I don't know that would be the case, even if all goes well. So there you have it, folks. Will humans go extinct? Are we guaranteed to go extinct? I would say that the answer is yes. That's either going to happen through a catastrophe, maybe a natural catastrophe, probably a man-made catastrophe, or of course there is the other option that we will just evolve into something new, either through biological evolution or technology mixed with biological evolution that will just transform us into something that maybe we don't want to become. Maybe it's gonna be a horrible future. Maybe it'll be nice for a while. But if you live long enough, you will get hit by a bus. Next question. One more thing before I go. I've had lots of conversations about possible futures for humanity with various really smart people, and some are really, really concerned about things like Neuralink. And I'm concerned too, obviously, for the reasons that I mentioned. But I've heard people say, oh, maybe someone needs to stop Neuralink from doing what they're doing. There's Elon Musk and Neuralink, they get all the attention, but there's a bunch of companies that are doing the same thing. Just look it up. I think there's like 10 of them just in the US and in Europe. And then who knows what's happening in, China and Korea and other places of the world. This is one of the weird things about science, is that once we started this project called science, like there's no clear way to put the brakes on. We just go. We just keep going. And it seems like we're going exponentially, if you ask me. And I don't know that there's any way to stop that. I mean, the only thing that seems like that could stop that would be a complete civilization collapse. And that, of course, would not be pleasant. So, I think Pandora's box has been opened. The scientific method is a thing, and it's extremely powerful, and it might transform us into something amazing. It might ruin everything. We'll see. So, sweet dreams.